The 12th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Saturday at 6 p.m.
Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news.
You are looking at the start of something big in the world of fitness. A video from 1985 featuring Jane Fonda, a workout many thought was fun and effective. Fast forward 24 years to 2009, and where are we now? Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, mind and body programs. Joining us to talk more about that today are Cindy Cook, founder of Vital Lifestyles Incorporated and Legacy Pilates, Yoga and More; Sandy Herzog, a mental health practitioner and certified biofeedback specialist; and finally, Leah Frazier, who just happens to be a client of Cindy's. Thank you all so much for joining us and welcome to the program. Cindy, we're going to start with you. Before we start talking about all this stuff that's going on today, give us a brief history, maybe starting back with Jane Fonda and Richard Simmons, of what we've seen in the world of fitness and wellness.
I like to use a quote about kind of the general progression of wellness. Here, take this root. Here, take this potion. Here, take this drug. Back to here, take this root. So it's kind of going back to nature again, as far as well-being and holistic senses. The no pain, no gain sensation of the 80s of beat your body up, got to kill, eyeballs should be popping out. There's a lot of risk of injury with that, and I think people, as we've aged through that era, are trying to find something that is balancing the body. So no pain, no strain is really more of the adage today with our mind-body programming. People are just wanting to find something that is not as stressful.
And are you finding the majority of people? Because I'm thinking of those individuals who were around back in the no pain, no gain era, and to try to transition into something that is much more relaxing and calming. Are you finding that the majority are steering that direction?
I don't know if the majority are, but certainly if we look at fitness clubs and school systems and things like that, where things are kind of changing a little bit, you find mind-body programs such as yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi more often now. I think as people become more aware of what they are and are not scared of them being tied in with a religion or affiliation like that, people are trying those kinds of things more.
Okay, and what are we seeing, Cindy, in the way of a effect, again, before we get too much into what's going on today, for those people who really were into programs such as we had in the 80s, where it was a lot of rigorous workout and so forth? What are we seeing in those folks physically now? They may be coming to you many, many years later. What types of things are you seeing from a physical perspective that have occurred in their lives as a result of those more harsh workouts?
Right, absolutely. Lower back injuries, hip and knee replacements, just lower back strain, rotator cuff tears. Even years ago, there was an article in the paper about the football team pulling their groin muscles because, again, they're using the big muscles and not really using the smaller, deeper core or stabilizing muscles of the body. Critical with regard to keeping the bones where they're supposed to be so that risk of injury decreases or is non-existent.
Okay. Sandy, comments from an emotional standpoint. We've talked a little bit about physical, but tracing back to the 80s, what types of things have you seen and how are we evolving from that standpoint?
Well, I think I just wanted to comment on the no pain, no gain and how people are making that transition. Having a husband who regularly goes to the gym, I find that the male perspective seems to be more still on the no pain, no gain. But I find that the younger generation and even more women maybe are going with the Tai Chi, the the newer programs and are more willing to try those out because the relaxation has become more important. The relaxation, and people are doing more meditation, so the gentler exercise and fitness programs seem to fit better with them.
Okay, and Leah, you've been on both sides of the fence in regards to exercise. You've been doing this, you say, all your life. And so what have you seen as the major difference in moving forward into this more calming, relaxing environment when we talk about fitness and wellness?
Well, I started off, I did karate, I do ice hockey, and so I'm very much the no pain, no gain type of person. What I like about Pilates is it's for all body types. It's for people who do have injuries or muscle imbalances that need to balance their muscles. But additionally, all athletes can benefit from Pilates in particular because there are those other muscles that you need to balance. Runners, hockey players, basketball players, football players, in order to all your muscles work together. And if something's out of balance, then your other muscles aren't going to be working as well, and then you're more at risk for injury. I find that with Pilates, it's not that it's gentle in the fact that you're not getting a workout, you still are, but you're focused in the movement, you're focused on your breath, and so while your body is getting a workout and your muscles are working, your mind is more able to connect to your body and to your spirit and to relax and to relieve the stresses of the day.
Okay, Cindy, she did a pretty impressive job of describing Pilates, and today we want to talk about three specific. That one, we want to talk a little bit about yoga and a little bit about Tai Chi. Could you briefly define, and again, I think Leah did a great job, but just walk us through the basic definition of each of those three, and then we'll go more in depth.
Sure. Pilates was actually developed by Joseph Pilates back in the early 1900s. He was actually born in 1880. So a lot of people think it's new stuff, and it's not. He was a very sickly kid and was actually picked on for being so scrawny, and developed his own body by studying Eastern discipline. Different programs, martial arts, and again, yoga and that kind of stuff. So he took his theories and practices and worked on his clients, soldiers in World War I, and perfected his techniques a little bit to help them become stronger. It's even said that in the 1918 epidemic of the Spanish flu, influenza, that nobody, all of his clients lived through that, even though millions died worldwide. So the testament to the power of working deeply, improving your lung capacity and that kind of thing. Karen Sanzo, my mentor, one of my mentors from Dallas, has a slogan that she goes by, and it's Pilates more than exercise. So it's deeper than just the physical, as Leah was saying. So it's the newest of the three. Yoga and Tai Chi are ancient practices. Some would say that they go back thousands of years. Yoga documentation is about 2,000 years old. And again, so the history is a little bit longer and a little bit, I don't want to say more perfected than Pilates, because Joseph really honed in on his practices and how to realign the body. He worked with scoliosis, bow-legged legs, knock knees, kyphosis, which is an arching of the back, and corrected them. It was just amazing. So all three of them have that kind of essence of, again, working the deeper muscles of the body. Tai Chi is very gentle, slow, fluid, graceful movement. It looks really simple, but the first time I did it, coming from a group fitness, exercise science perspective, coming from, the kick butt kind of, I got to kill myself workout. I used to power lift and do 10Ks and all that, was I couldn't lower my leg down to the floor without it going kerplunk. I was like, oh my gosh, couldn't believe it. I was hooked, that first time I did it. So it looks really easy, but it's a mindful, different sensation than using your big muscles. Yeah, it's crazy.
Now, Sandy, because so much of this obviously is driven by our mindset, I'm curious, this has been around a long time. What happened to society that we finally, I guess, accepted, and pretty openly, as it turns out? These are pretty popular things now. What happened from a mindset that shifted us and got us to really not only know about this, but believe in these programs enough to invest in them the way that people have?
Well, I think one of the big shifts was when corporations picked up on the whole fitness, wellness idea and started bringing programs in. And we have the research now from corporations showing that when we have people who are more fit, who exercise, are healthier, they have less absences from work, they have higher production. And I think when we saw corporations accepting that and bringing people in, we jumped on that. Individuals as well jumped on the bandwagon, and it just became more accepted, and everybody wanted to get in there and be part of that.
And I understand that with all of them, obviously one of the greatest benefits, Leah, is that this is for people of all age groups. This isn't just something, I mean, sometimes we get a little overwhelmed looking at some of the younger generation doing some of the things that they're doing and thinking, I'm never going to be able to do that. This is really something that, you know, just about anybody can accomplish. Describe, you're in classes and so forth. Tell us about the people that are working right around you.
Well, it's great. You know, it's very diverse. The entire studio is very diverse. And there's floor classes, there's yoga classes, there's Tai Chi classes, Pilates floor, Pilates reformer, on the equipment. So it's great. In all of these classes, you know, there's a combination of people that can go to the classes. There's more elderly people that are going to the classes, people that have suffered injuries, myself, you know, and I'm pretty fit. There's younger people even, you know, people in high school. There was a girl who was taking classes who was a pitcher on our softball team, and through Pilates, she ended up, without suffering injury, improving her pitch and just improved at her sport. And so it really is just great that it's made for everyone.
And Cindy, while that is obviously a plus, from an instructor standpoint, I would imagine it presents more of a challenge for you, because you now have a group of individuals who come from all walks of life, who are of all age groups. How much, and again, from an instructor standpoint, for those of us who would be interested in something like this, how much do you really have to know about these people before they come in so that you can really tailor what you're doing to each individual and to meet those needs?
Right, absolutely challenging. You'll have somebody with lower back issues or somebody else with a rotator cuff problem or what have you, different ages, fitness capabilities. So it is very difficult to teach. We try to aim people that have really a lot of physical limitation into a private kind of setting, if possible. A lot of people don't have the time nor the money to be able to do that, so to filter them into a class is fine. The instructors really do need a lot of education and experience. Coming with myself, having a bachelor's degree in business and exercise science, certainly wasn't enough. So I have people come in and they'll call, or they'll say, well, I'm an athlete and I run 10Ks and I want to get into an advanced class, and I won't let them. They have to go through the Foundations workshop. They have to start at the basic level. They might move on quicker than somebody else, but it's learning the basics to prevent injury and to understand that when we fire and recruit those deeper muscles, it's a lot different than just moving quick and using momentum and using bigger, larger movement. Big difference.
Yeah, and Sandy, pretty tough, I think. Again, we talked about the challenge of getting people to buy into this. I'm curious, because you see it from the emotional standpoint and what this does for us from a mindset standpoint. Talk to us about what you do on a daily basis. Tell us a little bit more about your background, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Well, I have been strictly doing biofeedback therapy or balancing for the past 5 years. I've had the program that I have for 8 years. So the people that come to me are coming for relaxation, and most of those people are already doing some mind, body, spirit kinds of things. I see a lot of people who not just have a lot of stress in their life, because everybody seems to be very fast-paced and very stressed out today, but I see a lot of people who have illnesses with the labels, and they're looking for additional ways to relax not just their bodies but their minds. And so they are already doing a lot of the things that they're experimenting with, mind, body, spirit kinds of things. And so they're very open. They're becoming more open. They're looking for more ways to take responsibility for their own health.
So the two of you then work in cooperation with one another. You're seeing a lot of the same people in a way. Do you refer people and vice versa, or how does that work exactly?
Not necessarily, no. We probably have some of the same clients.
Okay.
and I can't say that I've never told someone that yoga would be good for them,
Right.
but we don't necessarily work together.
And interestingly, how did you become introduced to all of this then? What was your first experience with this?
I had always really been interested in Pilates, and kind of like what Cindy said before, I didn't realize how long it had been around. You know, I'm probably from a different generation, and I heard the celebrities talking about it, read it in the magazines, and I was like, oh, this seems like it'd be really cool. You know, my muscles, I'm pretty muscular, tend to bulk up easily. I want long, lean muscles. I'm going to try Pilates. And you know, when I got into it, it was just a completely different experience in a great way that I wasn't expecting. But I went to Cindy's Foundations class, dragged my mom with me, and my mom's still a student, loves it. And so we just started with Cindy's classes.
Okay, and physically, Cindy, what does this do for a person? What can people expect as an outcome for?
Many of the same benefits, of course, that you would get with any exercise program. Cardiorespiratory benefits, so you improve your lung capacity, deep breathing, muscular strength, endurance, flexibility, clarity of mind and focus, which is really important as we look at the incidence of Alzheimer's and neurological problems that we have in our country. So a lot of those benefits, the balance is huge. Look at as we get older and the risk of falling. So we need to really maintain that balance physically in the body. So a lot of the same benefits that you might get from other exercise programs, but without a jarring kind of impact, stressful kind of way.
Okay, and nutrition, obviously a critical part of any program. I would imagine very much so with this. When you have people like Leah who are coming to you to start this new kind of approach to fitness and wellness, what types of advice are you giving them in the way of nutrition?
I don't really give them a lot of specific information. If we look at Ayurvedic medicine, which is, the translation is science of life, it's Eastern ancient tradition in holistic medicine. And if we look at that, it's more about mind-body types. So Leah, Sandy, and I, and Kathy, all have different mind-body types. So what I ingest would be different than what is good for you. So it's not the food guide pyramid, not that that's a bad thing, but we can actually go deeper as we can in the muscle work and be more specific. So broccoli's not good for all body types. So I have a grandson, and he spits out green beans. He doesn't like them. When I was growing up, it's like, you eat your beans or you're not going to play. And so we create imbalance at that young level. It's just crazy. So we need to let those infants, children, toddlers, pick foods that they want, that they're attracted to, without giving them candy choices and sugary foods and things like that. So there's not really, to me, a one-size-fits-all nutritional program. Many great programs out there. Again, it goes back to what is the person's makeup, and that's a whole nother program.
And so what do you do in that case? Is that something that you advise people on, or do you send them to somebody else, or how does that work?
I do have a couple practitioners that I've worked with at our studio. I refer them to some websites that they can find out what their mind-body type is. And then from there, there is great information out there with regard to then finding lists of foods, and this is ancient information, so you can find it in all different kinds of ways, for each mind-body type. So then you can find what foods are good for you, what kind of exercise is good for me, what kind of career or meditation kind of breathing techniques are good for me. Yeah, it's fabulous.
So it really does take a look at an individual and the big picture perspective. Now, I would imagine with any other program that someone is exploring, there would be a cost associated with this particular idea. Sounds to me like from a dietary standpoint, as long as you're doing the right things, it's not necessarily going to cost you a whole lot more, like some of the special weight loss programs out there might. So there's no really fear of that. And as you say, do what you enjoy doing, so maybe somebody's not going to have to go completely out of the realm. But Sandy, from a cost perspective, sometimes you talk about your mindset, that's the toughest thing to get through, is that's going to cost me. Talk to us a little bit about that particular piece of this.
That absolutely is a big piece. And I think people look at the cost in terms of money and time, because that's such a big issue today. And even when you mentioned nutrition, there is a cost in eating correctly. And people are so pressed for time that they get used to To keep all their commitments, they drive through the drive-through. And to go to the grocery store and to pick good foods and to prepare them is a big cost, both in dollars and in time. So that is a cost, and there's the cost of if you're going to go to a program, even if you're going to go to a gym, that people now are really looking at their budgets and where the money's going. So they are looking at that. But if you compare the cost of a class or even going to the gym to going out to dinner, to taking the family to the movies and getting the popcorn and the sodas, it balances out. I also think that people are getting more creative about doing things with the family and hiking and biking and going to the parks that we have. We have a lot of good things, nice places in our city to go to. And I think people are getting more creative and they're doing things together with their families, going to the gym with the families and doing some of those yoga classes. So I think people are open to that.
Okay, and even Leah said she brought her mother along with her. And you're hearing these ladies speak pretty true to life as far as what you're going through with taking the classes now?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I think it's great. It's improved, my health a lot. I think that I work in a very high stress environment, and it's nice to go in there and not be so stressed out. I always leave class feeling better than what I went in.
Okay, very good. And Cindy, this is a statewide program. So I'm curious, is this happening, what you're doing here, happening across the state? And if people are watching in another area, what would be that first call they would make to try to find out more about programs where they live?
I would check with city rec departments, the school systems, YMCAs, that kind of thing, with regard to finding programs in their own places. I just have a client that comes from Columbus, and bless her heart, she'll drive out, an hour and a half both ways to come do Pilates with me. And I said, send a trainer out to get certified, because we do certifications at the studio. And if there's not something in your area, ask or prod your personal trainers or fitness gurus at the facilities that you might work out at to get some training in it.
Well, and you bring up a good point, especially in this economy. This is a growing industry, something that people are obviously latching onto. Leah, you yourself, I understand, are training to be an instructor. Walk us through, for anybody who may be watching who says, hey, I like what they're saying and I'm interested in that. Not only do I want to take a class, but I might want to do what Cindy is doing at some point. Tell us what's entailed in all of that for you.
Well, there's a lot of different programs. There's some weekend programs. The program that I'm in, I was fortunate enough that Cindy brings Pilates Unlimited in from Dallas. So they come and they do workshops at our studio. We have to have 300 hours. We have to have practice hours, practice teaching hours, observation hours. We have to know anatomy. We're going to have a test out, written test, practical test. So it's very detailed, which I think is important. Looking at some of the other, and I'm not knocking any program or anything like that, but if you go to a certification that's a weekend long, 8 hours long, 16 hours long, you're not going to get the attention that you need, and you're not going to leave feeling as comfortable with the information that you've learned. And I would feel nervous teaching a client and God forbid something happened to them because I wasn't prepared enough.
Okay. Thank you for that input. I appreciate that very much. So we've talked about it from the client's perspective, the trainer in training perspective, and I know, Cindy, you have done quite a bit in the way of founding programs like this. We may have somebody that's watching who is interested, we hope, in possibly pursuing one of these three that we've mentioned today, maybe training to become a trainer like yourself. But what if there's somebody out there who's interested in starting their own business when it comes to these particular mind and body programs? How do they get started with that?
Oh gosh, there's a lot of information that they would need to take into consideration, of course. Are they going to do it out of their home? Do they have a facility that will rent them space or donate space to them? Are they going to work for a facility such as a gym? Or are they going to rent, lease space? Big commitment in that respect. So they would have to, of course, take all of those, the facility into consideration first. Education, certification is huge. So coming again from an exercise science perspective, I wasn't taught the stuff I need to know, which is frustrating, to have a 4-year degree and feel like I didn't know anything with regard to yoga and Pilates. The weekend things are great to learn choreography. It certainly is not going to teach one how to teach. So the expense and the time with regard to getting certified. There's a program out there. One of my clients, long-term clients, and one of my instructors is just finishing up, and it's cost her $15,000. And her brother has a studio in St. Louis that she's had the fortunate opportunity to stay with him, so she didn't have it, hotel expenses and stuff. So it's not to scare somebody away from doing it, but just do your research and make sure that it's something that you really want to jump into, because it's not just teaching aerobics, with the leg warmers and just get out there and move. That's great and fine and dandy. This is really specific stuff, and you're trying to help people's bodies feel better and live long, healthy, flexible, strong lives.
I think you bring up a great point. Well, I know you do, in making sure that an individual is certified, because we do, and we were talking about a little bit about how this is great for every age group. Well, in the senior living communities, you have activities programs in there, and they're always looking for ways to tailor programs to those individuals that they're serving. And boy, when you have someone that says, hey, I'll come in and do that complimentary for you, they want to help their residents, and they want to do different things with them. So what types of questions are we asking to make sure that somebody's certified?
Again, there are many different ways to get certified. I went to a 3-hour class, and it was called a certification. So perhaps maybe the number of hours that somebody has in training. As Leah said, we have a requirement for the training in this particular certification of 300 hours. It's a lot of hours to have to put in to observe and study and practice yourself. It's not just 3 hours. But so there are different levels of training. Experience certainly is a big plus. So how long have they been in the business? What is their medical or health and fitness kind of background and experience? Do they have anatomy training and things like that? Okay. Many things to ask.
Well, and you've all given us such great information. We do have websites that we want to direct people to in the event that they would have more questions after this, and I would imagine they would. mindbodyprograms.com, nutrientrichfoods.org, helpguide.org, and nccam.nih.gov. Thank you, ladies, so much for coming in today. We appreciate your time and expertise. Thanks to all of you for watching, and we will see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information and program archives can be found at unotv.unomaha.edu. If you'd like to share your comments about this show, call UNO TV at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours.
The 12th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Saturday at 6 p.m.